Guys, so today I'm going to do a video comparison of the L'Oreal Magic Lumi concealer to the Maybelline Dream Lumi highlighting concealer. These two products have been in the drugstore for a little while, and I always was partial to the, actually without using both, I was partial to the Maybelline Dream Lumi, and one day I went in to buy a new one because my other one had run out and they didn't have any in my shade, so I just went ahead and picked up the L'Oreal Magic Lumi, and I found that there were some things about it that were a little bit different, and I figured, you know what, why not compare the two side by side to kind of give you guys an idea of what to expect from both products and decide for yourself which one might work best for you. Alright, so the first thing that you're really going to notice, and that'll happen immediately while you're at the store, is that there's a pretty significant price difference between the two. The L'Oreal Magic Lumi concealer retails for about $12.99 at most drugstores, while the Maybelline Dream Lumi retails for about $7.99. So that's about a $5 difference between the two. So $5, in my opinion, is a pretty significant price difference for something that has the exact same amount of product in it, and it's supposed to be pretty much the same thing. They both come with 0.05 fluid ounces of product, and they're both basically the same kind of applicator or application method, which is, you know, this tube with the liquid concealer inside that kind of twists up and comes out on a brush. They're basically supposed to be just a drugstore dupe for the YSL Touche Eclat. I cannot pronounce that, it is French. But basically they're supposed to be a dupe for that high-end YSL concealer that so many people love. It's just supposed to be a more affordable and accessible version of the same thing. I've never used the YSL one, so I can't compare it performance-wise to the higher end product, but I can compare these two to each other. I do have to say I'm not a fan of the applicator. I mean, it works just fine, but I always feel like because you don't really get to clean the brush or anything like that, the product kind of gets gunked up in there and it just feels dirty to me. They're the same applicator, so they comparatively, they're basically the same thing. I'm just not a fan of those kinds of applicators. But what can you do? That's all they come in. Another significant difference you'll notice at the store is that there is a much broader color selection in the Maybelline Dream Lumi than in the L'Oreal Magic Lumi. L'Oreal Magic Lumi comes in 3 different shades, and that is just fair, light, and medium. Those are the 3 shade options that you have, so it might not work for everyone because it doesn't really have any kind of deeper shade for the people out there who have deeper skin tones. On the other hand, the Maybelline Dream Lumi comes in 6 different shades: Ivory, Radiant, Buff, Nude, Beige, and Honey. So you have a little bit of a bigger color selection with Maybelline. So right off the bat, Maybelline is beating L'Oreal in price point and in color selection. So for the purposes of my skin, I went ahead and I used Maybelline Dream Lumi in the shade Nude, and when I picked out the L'Oreal one, I picked out the shade Light. If you look at them in the packaging, they kind of almost look exactly this, like they would be the exact same color. So there's the concealer here and here. They almost look exactly the same. So I didn't obviously have something to compare it to when I bought it, but I purchased the Light thinking that that would be the color that would work for me. What I found when I got home was that the L'Oreal was actually a little lighter than the Maybelline Nude, and it has more pink undertones than yellow. So it didn't really work perfectly with my skin, kind of like I feel the shade for the Maybelline works for my skin. It just works a lot better. It cancels things out a lot more for me. Let me just show them to you side by side. So there's the Maybelline, and as you can see, they're actually pretty different. The Maybelline's actually a little bit darker than the L'Oreal. So aside from the shade difference, another thing that will be obvious once you start to use it is the consistency. The L'Oreal Magic Lumi is actually a lot more, it's more watery. It's not as thick as the Maybelline. They're both obviously liquid concealers, so they're not going to be too thick, but I feel like the Maybelline, because of its consistency, covers a lot better than the L'Oreal. So when I compare them side by side, applying them like I did today, I'm actually wearing Dream Lumi on this side and L'Oreal on this side. I actually would have to go back with the L'Oreal and kind of apply a little more product in strategic areas because it wasn't covering the shadows, like the darkness that I get right in the inner corner. It wasn't covering that as well. And the L'Oreal concealer actually calls itself a corrector and highlighter. So I'm assuming it should be correcting some of the darkness that I'm trying to hide. While the Maybelline one, once I apply it and I blend it out, I hardly ever have to apply more. I just kind of blend it out and it covers any kind of darkness in my inner corners that I feel the L'Oreal one actually didn't cover as well. I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but when I do look in the mirror, I can still see a little more shadow on this side than I can on the other. And I'm pretty sure it has something to do with, one, the color matching better with the Maybelline concealer, but also because of the consistency, it's a little thicker, it's covering a lot better because it's more opaque. It's kind of like comparing a watercolor to a regular paint. The watercolor is obviously going to be a little more see-through and therefore not going to cover as much. And so that's kind of a way to kind of look at it, because the L'Oreal one's actually a little more watery. And for me, that was something that I caught right off the bat. As soon as I started using it, I was like, oh, this feels a lot thinner than the other concealer. I also feel like they perform a little differently when it comes to blending. I think because the L'Oreal one's a little more watery than the Maybelline one, I wouldn't say it blends better, I would say that it gives you a little more time to blend it. I feel like you have to work a little bit faster to blend the Maybelline one, but it still blends really well. It just dries a little faster, so you just have to work a little bit faster when you're blending. But it's not anything astronomical or significant where I'm like, oh my god, I feel so rushed. Nothing like that. It's just, you know, just work a little bit faster. That is it. Now, when it comes to brightening, however, I think both concealers actually do a really good job as highlighters. While it's not covering as well, I still did notice a lot of brightening going on with the L'Oreal product as with the Maybelline. Because the L'Oreal product is a little too light for my skin, I feel like then it does kind of create a little bit more brightness when I apply it than the Maybelline one does. But the Maybelline is able to both correct and highlight, while I feel like the L'Oreal one is doing more highlighting than correcting on me. So in my opinion, I feel like if I had to decide between the two, I feel like Maybelline edges out the competition. They have the price right. It's $5 cheaper. They have a wider selection of shades. The shade that I tried, both concealed and corrected, so it is, for me, a 2-in-1 product. And I just really like the results that I get with the Dream Lumi. I'm not saying that the L'Oreal Magic Lumi isn't a good product. It is. I just don't think that I just don't think it's as good. For me, it's more of a highlighter than a corrector, so I felt like I would have to use 2 products instead of 1. I feel as though if I had never used the Maybelline before I used the L'Oreal, I may have liked the L'Oreal product a lot better than I did. But the whole time I was using the L'Oreal Magic Lumi, I kept wishing that I had my Maybelline Dream Lumi. I kept thinking, it's doing a good job, it's just not doing as good of a job as my Maybelline Dream Lumi did. And that's not the way I feel when I use the Dream Lumi. In fact, when I use the Dream Lumi, I totally forget about L'Oreal's Magic Lumi altogether. I'm like, L'Oreal who? So for me personally, I think that Maybelline did an excellent job with their Dream Lumi, and L'Oreal still has a little ways to go if they want to beat the competition. So hopefully this review has helped you out and has answered some questions you may have had, just to kind of give you an idea of how each one performed and what might work better for you. If you have pink undertones, maybe the L'Oreal Magic Lumi in light would work better. If you didn't have any darkness to conceal, maybe it would correct and conceal for you. But I'm wearing L'Oreal on this side, and see, I feel like you can still see some of the shadows that I was trying to hide, while on this side I'm wearing the Maybelline, and I feel like it just did a much better job at concealing and highlighting. Alright, so thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!